Open my lips that my mouth might show forth your praise. And may the words of my mouth and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. Dogs and people living together goes back a long, long way, maybe as much as 30,000 years, which is way before the time when people domesticated cattle or horses or sheep. I believe that dogs and people have had significant roles in shaping the other species, intellectually, emotionally, and spiritually. I actually believe that for significant portions of the dog and human world, dogs and humans are essential to each other. And at the center of the dog-human experience are a few practices, daily activities, rituals, routines, necessities. I'm really not sure yet what the right word is for these things, but they shape the shared life. The life in which dogs shape their people and people shape their dogs. Now, these moments, or routines, if you will, are so fulfilling both to the dog and to the person. I believe it's why that dogs and people have kept living together all these years and not kicked each other out. And one of the most significant of these is what I call the walk, or going for a walk, or taking the dog for a walk. Now, I've already thrown out a lot of unsubstantiated theory this morning, so here's one more. I believe that what we call walking the dog originated in hunting and gathering. Humans and their dogs set off from home to hunt and gather. Now, Ella taught me how to walk the dog in 2002. Before Ella, I had a shepherd named Heidi when I was just a little boy, and we never did the walk. We only played in the backyard together. Between the ages of 9 and 15, I had another shepherd named Luther, and we walked miles and miles and miles together 7 days a week. But that was delivering the afternoon Worcester Telegram and Gazette. Going from house to house, rain or shine, snow or heat, Luther and I were walking together, but it wasn't the walk. Now, Ella, who you see here, and I lived with 3 cats in a rundown little cottage by the beach in a place called Hummerock. And we didn't have a lot going on in those years. Sure, she came to seminary with me 4 days a week, and 20 hours a week she worked with me at the Second Congregational Church of Cohasset, except for Sunday mornings. But most of our time outside of seminary and church was spent with each other. And a big part of our time with each other was spent walking. I'd pull on my shoes, open the door, and say, "Let's go for a walk, Ella." And off we go. We walked the woods, the meadows at World's End, if you've been there in Hingham, the beaches and trustees for reservation properties all over the South Shore. Ella walked at a terrier schnauzer nose to the ground trot. You know, all dogs walk differently, just like all people walk differently. She trotted with her nose to the ground, following scents, zigging and zagging this way and that, starting, stopping, circling back. And I would follow, sometimes closely, sometimes not, but never outside of her cone of sight, smell, or hearing. We never used a leash because neither of us needed one. We never had a destination or a direction once we were out the door of the house or the truck. We were just following wherever her nose or instincts led us. Sometimes I'd see something that I wanted to see or had looked at a map, and I'd lead in that direction, and she'd follow me. And as we walked, my attention focused on seeing, hearing, and smelling what she was onto, or what I was walking by. I found myself noticing the plant, tree, and animal life. I'd hear the birds and follow their song to see where they were in the trees. We'd walk and we'd pause. We'd nose about and notice things, often very tiny things that we never saw before, like changes that had happened because of a storm, or changes because of a season, or changes because something had aged. And we just immersed ourselves in the woods and the meadows or the beaches where we walked. And immersing ourselves with Ella as my guide, I disengaged my mind, my thinking mind, my quantitative mind, my comparative mind, and I switched to my appreciative mind. I turned off the running list of all the things I had to do, which when I was a professor was so bad I could never sleep on a Sunday night because I'd be up all night writing notes of everything I wanted to do on Monday morning. I turn off my list of all the things that I was working on at the church or in seminary. My feelings, about your relationships, about my relationships, how I was feeling with my friends or my family. I would disengage from what I call awfulization, which is that when that scene is playing for your mind where you wish things had gone differently, but they can't because it already happened 40 years ago. I'd just be there, step by step, sight by sight, sentence sound by sentence sound, until we either found our way back to where we started or noticed that the sun was going down, it was time to go home. As I said before, Ella and I, we were out hunting and gathering. But for what I didn't know then, now I do. Ella was just being a terrier schnauzer mix, being herself. And I was letting go of everything except just being alive. What I discovered after only a very few days of Ella's teaching was that the walk was essentially the same thing as meditation or contemplation or mindfulness or centering prayer or all the other things the religious professionals teach us to call it, all the classroom teaching I was getting and all the books I was reading. With Ella, it was just straight experience. There was no real use or utility to the walk. Ella did do her business, and we both got some exercise, but that wasn't the point. I didn't use our walking time together to listen to podcasts for the simple reason that podcasts had not been invented yet. But I also didn't go through my voicemails or my emails. Also, that hadn't been invented yet. You couldn't get your emails on your phone, but I wasn't doing it anyways. And I wasn't chatting with friends. We didn't get from point A to point B and back again. In fact, we probably walked in a lot of circles. What we did do when we were out on the walk was immerse ourselves in an appreciation of being alive, step by step. Our lessons this morning, the psalm and the story of Jesus visiting Mary and Martha, are about our human need. Not a luxury, but a need. To let go, at least occasionally, of everything non-essential and live out of our essence. We have a need for silence, all kinds of silence. Exterior silence in a world where everything seems to be quaking. Exactly the same in Psalm 62 as it is on the evening news today. And a need for interior silence. The million things we got to get done or the world's going to fall apart, right? Just like Martha. And our need to just be, which is where we will find God. Now, you don't need a dog to do this, but Ella showed me how easy it was. In the end, once you learn how to walk the dog, you can bring it to anything and everything that you do. You see, what Ella taught me is that most of us have life wrong most of the time. It's neither the journey nor the destination that's the most important. It's the company. Presence. Presence is everywhere, at all times. Thanks be to God.